Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Tullahoma at Work podcast. This is where we introduce you to all of the folks within the city of Tullahoma that help keep our city running good and smooth, just like it always does. And my guest today is our Deputy Police Chief, Jason Kennedy. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show. And, we always start out with difficult questions right off the bat because we love to do that. So the hardest question I'm going to ask you today. So you're over at a friend's house and y'all are hanging around and they go to the freezer and they get out the tub of ice cream and it's Neapolitan. You got three choices. What are you going for?
Strawberry.
Finally, somebody else who agrees with me because everybody else is all vanilla, chocolate. No, the strawberry, most definitely. Yeah. Why strawberry?
Well, as a kid, my grandfather used to do the homemade ice cream where you churn it. I think it's
yeah.
And he always did strawberries, so strawberry is probably my favorite ice cream.
Mine too, by far. That and cherry. I like cherry ice cream too.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So, but like I said before to some of the other guests, that as soon as I eat it, I just immediately start gaining weight. So, you can tell I like ice cream. Anyway, so no, the serious first question that I always ask though is, what is your Tullahoma story? Tell us how you got to Tullahoma.
How did I get to Tullahoma? So, my second job in law enforcement was Tullahoma Police Department. Mm-hmm. I met my wife here. We live here. We've been living here for about 10 years. So kids go to the school here. It's just a great community. You got just enough stuff to go do, but you still have that small town life. It's just like today, Grace Baptist Church fed all the first responders, so you still have hometown community, but you still have things to go do, and that's what makes Tullahoma great.
Oh, very good. I didn't know they were doing that too. Yep. That's very good. I've noticed that a lot is that, especially with the first responder community, but with a lot of folks, they tend to jump in and just help like that, or they'll hold some event that will benefit somebody else. That's one of the great things I've seen about Tullahoma since I've been here.
Yeah,
so yeah, and I imagine in the first responder world, I know I've been down to the fire department and seen boxes of donuts and fruit trays and stuff show up, and does that happen in the police department too? Yeah,
all the businesses, they'll bring something up to the police department. Just want to say, hey, thank you for what you do. But yeah, we got a lot of supportive businesses and even just normal people. I mean, they'll come by and just bring something. So that's the community we live in.
Yeah, that's always great to hear that. We don't always see that, but it's good to hear that stuff happens. So. Yeah. But now, so you said Tullahoma was your second job in law enforcement. What was your first one?
I started off at the Coffee County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, as a deputy, or what did you do? I
started off at 18. I worked in the jail, and then they put me as a patrol deputy.
Okay,
right before I turned 21.
Okay, yeah. So where was the point in that early part of your life where you just decided, I want to be a police officer? This is what I want to do in law enforcement.
It was either that or a fireman. My family come from military, also public service work. My father was a paramedic for over 40 years. I have an uncle retired from Cook County Sheriff's Office, a lot of friends and family in public service. So it's something I grew up around. So,
just kind of always in your life at some point or another.
Like that's cool. Yeah. So that's how I ended up doing what I'm doing.
So you started out at the Coffee County Sheriff's Office. You said you worked in the jail as a guard or
correction officer.
Oh, okay. Yes, started as correction officer. Okay.
Yeah. Didn't have a lot of choices out of high school. Knew college wasn't in my picture right off the bat. Of course, I went to college later, but at 18, I just wanted to work. College wasn't the right time for me then. So I started there and then went as a patrolman or a deputy.
I can fully relate to that because I didn't go to college until I was almost 50. So
it's never too late.
No, it is never too late. So just keep that in mind out there. So working over at the jail, that must have been an interesting time.
Especially 18 years old, naive, not a lot of life experiences.
And this is the old jail. This isn't the new one,
yes,
right?
This is the old one.
Okay.
Yeah. I grew up real quick. You have to. So, that was my first real job, I guess you'd say.
Now, in looking out over just your law enforcement career, how many years have you got now? Thereabouts.
It'd be 24 in December. However, for about 3 years, I taught at the high school. So 21.
Oh, okay.
21 years in law enforcement.
What did you teach at high school?
Criminal justice.
Yeah, I was thinking that's where that was going to go.
Yeah,
okay.
I taught at Tullahoma High School for about 3 years.
Okay. Now, were you doing law enforcement at the same time, or did you just shift over?
I was a reserve at the sheriff's office, but it was primarily just teaching school.
Oh, okay. All right. So going from the jail to school, was it different or the same? I'm kidding. You don't have to answer that.
It's a different set of facts.
Yeah, it's a very different set of facts.
Yeah.
So over 24-ish years thereabouts, you've had to have seen some strange things out there. What's one of the you can talk about? What's one of the strangest things that you remember in your law enforcement experience? I know it's a hard question.
A lot of stuff I can't talk about. Let me think on that, and let's
We'll come back.
circle back around.
We'll come back to that question.
Yeah.
So now you've been the deputy chief for how long? Is it 2 years now? 3 years?
Oh no, it'll be. It was an interim phase there too for a few months. So I think.
Oh right.
About this November will be 2 years.
Okay, so about 2 years.
Yeah.
All right. And so, did you ever think that was going to happen? Do you ever see that in your future?
Of course. I mean, my goals. I've always wanted to try to make it to the top, and fortunately, when the position came open, Chief Sons appointed me as the interim, and then when it became open, I applied for it, and
Right.
I accepted.
Right. Very good. So, and then, again, going back over that 24 years, there's a lot of, I know that y'all see a lot of rough things, but y'all see a lot of good things too. What's some of the good things that you have experienced because of your position in law enforcement? What's one that sticks out to you?
I'm gonna put it together, good and bad. Over my career, I've worked several violent cases, included homicides. Of course, it's very bad to have to investigate those, and it drains you. But at the end of the trial, and you look behind and you see the victim's family,
Right.
crying and just tears of joy, and them saying thank you. That's pretty powerful.
I can I can't imagine being in that position, or even just being an officer in that position. That had to be pretty rough.
Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty good stuff there.
Yeah. Now I know when Chief Sons was on, one of the questions that I asked him about was advice that he would give a young person if they were to come up to you and say, "Hey, I want to be you one day. I want to be a police officer." What kind of advice would you have for them?
Of course, now in school, like when I taught criminal justice, now one good thing schools are doing, they're really focusing on kids getting into the workforce right out of school. They're not pushing people to go to college, but now it is a good thing to go to college. Being in law enforcement, it's good to also have, college.
Right.
But we have officers that work for us now that I actually taught 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And they're coming in, and they know a lot of things because of stuff they're learning in criminal justice programs. So, if it's a high school kid, I would suggest, hey, take these criminal justice classes because, I mean, they get to do a lot of neat things.
Right.
They learn. But that would be my advice.
Start there.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that's got to be neat. Full circle. You have somebody that you worked with in your school days, and then now they're working with you as an officer. That's interesting.
It's very neat.
It kind of shows you if you did it right, because you've taught back then, and now 6 years later, here they are. Are you having to retrain them, or are they doing pretty good? So.
Well, I mean, there's definitely a lot more training that
Right,
they have to
right.
attend, but I mean, they're coming in with a good base knowledge. They know what certain probable cause is, reasonable suspicion. I mean, they know the lingo, so
Right.
it helps.
That's something I've had to learn listening to y'all talk when we go over press releases or things like that, trying to pick up the words here and there. So I kind of know what I'm talking about. So that's pretty good. So in talking about that, you don't, if you wanted to go in law enforcement, you don't have to be necessarily an officer. There's other career paths you can take in that too, correct? There's other things you can do.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you got chemistry, people that test certain drugs.
Right.
You have a lot of IT things now. This world we live in now, cell phones. If you like computers, there's jobs in law enforcement with computer forensics. If you just like working crime scenes, you can be a crime scene tech. Not at our department, but bigger departments have that.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of civilian opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the fun things I know you got to do recently, because I saw the pictures, is when you went to the elementary school to name the new canine.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that experience. What did y'all do there?
So unfortunately, our canine we had, Storm, we had to medically retire him. And then Officer Bowles, Derek Bowles, said he wanted to, work another canine. So we bought one, and Derek came up with the idea, said, let's get the elementary school kids to pick a name. And I said,
Right.
are you going to provide names? Because if we go in there, we're going to be in there all day.
Right. You'll have them come out named Petunia or something like that.
Yeah. So Derek came up with about 4 names, and we went to K through 2nd. So we went to every elementary school that day, and they all voted Nike. So
okay. Oh, you went to all 4 schools.
Yep.
Oh, I thought you just went to one.
We went to all 4 and kept a running tally, and
Man, y'all did a marathon that day. So
it took about a half a day.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
So how is it going with the new canine? Is he doing well?
He's a missile.
Oh yeah.
Storm I was used to, but this dog, he's great, but just when he gets out of the vehicle, it's just like kind of scary. But he's done a lot of good things already for our department and also surrounding agencies. Derek gets called to assist other agencies sometimes, so he's doing great.
That's good.
Yep.
That's really good. And I know for me, I'm an animal person anyway. So, a dog, even though as frightening as they might be, would probably be a pretty big morale booster too. I'm sure when the dog shows up, everybody's excited to see him too.
Oh yeah. Just like the kids.
Yeah.
We're like, a dog. Yeah.
They see a bunch of officers and they're, who's a good boy?
Well, I think the officers are a little skeptical of the new one because everybody's getting to know him. But Storm, he would run around the building and officers pet him, but everybody's sort of standoffish with this new one right now.
Yeah. I mean, I know they go through some pretty significant training for that. So what, so speaking of training, this is something I mentioned to Chief Sons as well. I noticed in your board packet on the last board meeting we had, when they do the department reports, there's this long list of training that you all have to do. I was surprised at how many hours were on there. You guys do a lot of training over there.
Yeah, one good thing we've started over the past couple of years, which every department tries to, but we were fortunate enough we really push out a lot of training to officers. The state requires each officer to have a minimum of 40 hours of training a year. That's just to keep our certification. But most of our men and women, they're probably pushing at least 100, a little over 100 hours a year of specialized training. So
is that pretty close to a national level, or is that?
I really can't compare it to anything, but I mean, our officers are getting the basic 40 hours, and they're getting at least go to at least 1, if not 2, specialized schools a year. So, and we're hosting a lot of training in our department also.
Right. Yeah, that's. I think that's a great thing, because then you can also send your officers to the training that's already in your building.
Yeah.
As you guys do have a really nice training room over there. It's a good spot.
We've worked on it. So we've done a lot of good things with the training.
Yeah. Well, very good. So if you had to say, either you could choose either our department here or just in general law enforcement, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges that law enforcement is looking at right now?
Probably retention and recruitment. Over the past several years, law enforcement sort of got a black eye. So a lot of people, it's either they don't want to do it or they don't want to do it because of the scrutiny they have to go through being an officer.
Right.
Then retention, of course. Everybody's in a competition, want to go to the best department that has the most, where you get paid.
Right.
But as of right now, our department's doing great. We're fully staffed. So that's
and
good.
I know y'all don't get to say that very often.
No. But the city itself has been very good. Our department, they recognize the need, and they've helped us. Of course, we can't build Rome in a day.
Sure.
Over the past few years, it's really stepped up, and it's been really good.
Yeah, and I know one of the areas that Tullahoma, I think, has really improved. I've been with the city now almost 9 years, or a little over 9 years. And the SRO program, when those grants came through from the state to be able to help fund SROs, and we have one now in all of our schools, correct? Every school has one?
Yes, every school has one.
So how has that been on the department? Because I know you had some officers that shifted duties from regular patrol over to that, and I don't know if you had anybody go the opposite direction, but how has that been for the department with the incorporation of the new SROs?
Oh, it's been great. The community loves it. The teachers, the principals, the superintendent, they all love having the officers in there. The kids, I mean, they know their SRO by name. You'll see pictures. If they're out, they'll come up, say hi to them. I think it's been a great thing for our community and the city.
And y'all do some really good events with that too. I know, like Officer Blackburn did the bike helmets, and y'all recently had the car seat. The car seat drive. Tell the folks who may not know about that. What was the car seat drive for? Did you have anything to do with that one?
I went and picked up the car seats. There was a factory in Shelbyville. I apologize, I don't know the name, but they donated several car seats. That was SRO McKnight. Her last name's McKnight now. She just recently got married. But
okay.
That was her idea. So
Gotcha.
kudos for her. And Officer Blackburn did the bicycle helmets, and he also just did the bowling with badges.
Yes, I saw that.
And there's several other things that the SROs come up with. One of our SROs, Tyler Walls, is in the process of organizing a golf tournament in August to help raise money for our National Night Out, and also the fire department for their toy drive in December that they do. So they come up with a lot of good things.
Yeah, and plus, they're right there with the kids on a daily basis, so they see the need probably better than any of us do when something like that comes up. But what was the reason for the car seats? What did y'all need those for?
I think the SRO McKnight just saw a need for kids not having car seats because, shockingly, I mean, they can cost quite a bit of money.
Oh, no, there's no shock there.
Yeah.
I've owned a couple.
So she saw a need, and she just wanted to help, So that's what I think's great about our officers. If they see a need, they take initiative, and
Right.
they do something instead of just saying, well, we need this, we need that. They take initiative, and they go through with it.
Yeah, and I've said this before too. I wish that was one of the things that people could see about how it's not just our department. All police departments do this to a certain degree. The level of community engagement that they have, just trying to do good stuff.
I've worked with agencies all across southern Middle Tennessee, and officers do it because they want to do it. I mean, I've seen officers buy groceries for people, out of their own pocket. Never ask for a dime back, So, like I said, it's just not our department, like you said. It's departments all across Tennessee and the country.
Yeah, and those are the stories I wish we would get out there a little bit more. So, but now going back a little bit in your personal experience, I know that you have also been to the FBI Academy.
Correct.
So what was your experience like for that? How long ago was that you went?
So I went in January 2017. It was great. Met some of the best, cops in general are great people for the most part. I've met a lot of great leaders, but when you go to the academy, you're meeting with some of the best leaders across the country. So that was really neat to see how other places conducted business. Got a lot of good ideas and learned a lot from them. And some of the people I still, talk to. They'll come through Tennessee and like, hey, we're coming to Nashville, and then can you take me to Jack Daniels? I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll go down there. But yeah, you met a whole bunch of great people.
Yeah, and I know that Chase was telling me that his class was international. Was yours international as well?
Yes, we had probably 260 something students there, and about 60 were international students.
Wow, so that's got to be interesting because, obviously law enforcement is going to be relatively the same everywhere, but the nuances for, a foreign country in their police force versus ours, did you ever notice any big differences or any big standouts on that?
Oh, yeah. Of course, across the United States, we got to go by what the Constitution says.
Correct. Right.
There was one woman in my class, she was from England, and we got talking about different things like, probable cause, search warrants, and she's like, oh, no, we don't have to do that. We can just do it. I'm like, oh
wow.
Yeah, so it's a little different. I became really good friends with one guy from Jordan. So he and I, we send emails back and forth, but yeah, it's a little different in some places.
I can't imagine. You mentioned the Constitution and all of the rights and things that it guarantees, and then you think that we're one document away from not having that just by going to another country. I couldn't imagine. I'm assuming, does that mean that an officer there could just show up and search without?
I can't really remember what we were discussing, but it had something to do with searching. But yeah, it was total opposite of what we would have to do here in America.
I could do a whole podcast episode on just that stuff. That stuff is fascinating to me because I do think that there's a lot of folks that, they have a rough grasp of what our rights would be, but it's very complicated, and I don't think they realize how thin of a veil that is between having it and not having it sometimes. And so, golly, I couldn't imagine. So did you think about what your most strange law enforcement case might be? I'm sure there's been several.
Yeah,
but
there's several, but a lot of it is unfortunate events. But I mean, I've seen kids they stick their arm in something, they're not hurt, but I'm like, how did you do that? Just different things of that nature. But nothing really pops out that we can discuss.
I know there was an officer one time that told me, because you may know this, but I'm a big ghost story fan. I love ghost stories. And I've had officers, not here in Tullahoma, but in other places, have told me that they had this one story I remember in particular. They said there was a lady who kept calling in that said there was someone in her house. And so, of course, full force shows up, lights blaring and everything. They don't find anybody. Over the next few days, she called with the same complaint. And the best thing that they could determine was that they thought she had a ghost in her house. And I'm trying to think, how would you write a police report that says that?
Yeah.
That might be one that shows up on TV somewhere.
Yeah. Never had any encounters with supernatural stuff. But yeah, I've had some funny things happen and want to know, like, how did that happen? But I can't really think of something right off my head.
That's all right. I'm going to have you back on eventually. So I'll hit you up with that one again.
I will work on that.
But now you guys, so all police officers have a relatively tough job, but you have to sometimes disconnect from that as well. So personally, what do you like to do to power down a little bit, to disconnect from that law enforcement job and relax a little bit? What kind of hobbies do you have? What do you do?
We used to go camping a lot with the kids when they were younger. Now that they're older, it's not that cool. So
right.
I would like to start picking up camping again. But I love mowing the grass. That's a very good decompressor.
Yeah.
Working in my yard, sitting out by the pool.
Mm-hmm.
Just different things. Just being with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
We try to go have a lot of fun when we're off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I think is nice about, you have a very tight-knit community over there. You help each other. You cover with each other if somebody needs to be off or something like that. Because I would imagine you got to have those decompression moments.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and that's great. Chief Sons, all our administrative staff, the city administrator here, I mean, they want to make sure you have time to be with your family. And, this job will be here when you get back. So that's something that all the administration here is really good with employees. If you need to take time, take time.
Right. And so earlier you mentioned this is shifting gears a little bit. You talked about recruitment and retention. And I remember several discussions here in the city when we were doing a fleet changeover with vehicles. And I thought it was interestingly put one time that somebody said that a police car or the officer's vehicle is basically their rolling office. And sometimes the condition or the newness or whatever of the vehicles is a big retention issue. Is that a true statement, do you think?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you have nice vehicles, I mean, that's definitely, a plus. But you're right. I mean, we work 12-hour shifts, the patrol does. So, I mean, I'd venture to say they're probably in their car 7-8 hours a shift usually.
Yeah.
That's
which is basically what most of us will spend in our office. So,
yeah. So, I mean, they, having nice vehicles does help a lot.
Yeah.
Fortunately, like I said, the city's been working with us. We've gotten a lot of newer vehicles over the past few years, and officers are taking care of them because they know that's going to be their office for the next 5-6 years, most likely. So, yeah, and when they get their own vehicle, they tend to take care of it.
Right.
And it helps because you and I drive differently. Mm-hmm. And if I drive a car for 12 hours, then you get in it for 12 hours, you're going to drive totally different. So, a car, one driver is, it helps a lot.
Right.
Whereas 30 years ago, you had one car that would be running 24 hours a day.
Right.
So.
Well, I know the cars, too. This is something that you've sent me recently in an email. The cars become almost like a source of competition between departments, too, don't they?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. What happens there?
So I think it's the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. They've got a little friendly competition of all the police departments broke up by regions. And I think we're in the Cumberland region. And we're trying to find a spot to take a picture of 2 of our patrol trucks, which they look really sharp. And I believe we've got permission from the Markhams out on Avoca Road.
Oh, yeah.
Their waterfall pond. I think this Friday we're going to strategically
very nice.
try to place them and take the picture and send it in and see if we can win. But there's a lot of good-looking police cars across the state. So I mean,
there are. I went to that public information officer class, and the majority in that class were all officers, and they showed up in their patrol cars, and then here I roll up in my dirty Ford that I haven't washed in about 8 months. So I felt a little embarrassed parking next to these really nice looking police cars in my pile of junk. So. Well, so you have at the moment, hopefully 20,000 Tullahomans out there that are watching us. If you had anything that you would want to say to Tullahoma about the police department or anything like that in general, what kind of parting words would you want to leave them with?
Just know we try every day to do our best. We train a lot. You've got a great group of men and women over there that is here to serve you. And if you ever have any questions or complaints, feel free to pick up the phone and contact us. We'd love to hear more questions and good comments, not so much complaints, but we'll hear those too.
Yeah.
But that's what I'd have to say.
Okay. Very good. Well, I think that we'll go ahead and conclude it there. And I want to say thank you all for tuning in today, listening to the Tullahoma at Work podcast. We're going to give it the Bob Barker sign off and tell you that if you have dogs and cats out there, please spay and neuter those pets and help reduce the unwanted pet population. And thank you very much, Tullahoma. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time. And thanks for tuning in.